Welcome to the Strong for Performance podcast, where we give coaches and consultants practical ideas for taking you to the next level in your business and in your life. I'm your host, Meredith Bell. I interview experts who've walked in your shoes and offer real-world experience that you can apply to your own journey. Welcome back to another episode of Strong for Performance. I'm Meredith Bell, your host, and I am just so excited to have with me today someone who's a very special person and entrepreneur, Jeff Moore. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and you and I go back a lot of years.
We do. Let's not say how many.
Okay.
I've been a fan of Jeff's for quite a while because he's such a smart marketer and salesperson. He is currently the director of seafood and business development for Global Protein Group, which is a division of Porky Products. And what size is that company? 5 billion?
No, a little over 2 billion.
2 billion.
And they're a fantastic group.
That's awesome. Well, one of the things I want to brag on you about that you probably wouldn't say for yourself is that in less than a month, Jeff took their sales of this group that he's in charge of from $5 million to $18 million. Now, that is really significant, and we want to go a little bit deeper about how did that happen. But meanwhile, I want to, just as background, let our listeners know that in addition to running that business development unit, you also are involved with a mastermind that includes high-level consultants and coaches.
Yes.
And your focus with that group for your own role with them is helping them with their messaging and positioning.
Correct.
That's a real strong area of expertise for you, and we're going to go into that in more detail today in our conversation. But to start with, Jeff, I want you to give us a little bit more about your journey. What has happened to you over the years in your progression here as an entrepreneur?
You know, I'm going to it'll be real fast and I'll go through it. But my entire life, I always knew that I was meant to be in sales. And I was from an early on, even in elementary school, when we would do the fundraisers. I'll never forget coming home. I think I might have been in third grade. And I had the candle box. We were selling candles as a fundraiser. And I was showing them to my dad, and I had the box kind of tilted so I could read the candles. And he goes, "Wait a minute." He goes, "Set that in your lap." And I'm like, okay. And there's the pictures and all the verbiage about the candles beneath me, upside down. And he goes, "Step one in being a salesperson," he goes, "you need to learn how to read upside down." What? I'm having a hard enough time reading right side up, you know? And so it was always that point where I grew up with a father that was a dynamic sales and leader in food service. My grandfather was, my grandfather was one of the first guys to create the time motion studies in retail, and was just a super dynamic guy. Was actually given the Pepsi-Cola bottling franchise from a conversation. So, you know, I had a lot of pedigree growing up with these people. And in seventh grade, this young entrepreneur, he was a junior in high school, hired me. He's a friend of the family, and he was making about $10,000 a month in his summer business. He was an entrepreneur, and hired me to be one of his door-to-door salespeople in seventh grade, where I was making like $300 a week. Selling lawn aeration, which is something out here in Southern California with the hard soils that we have. But love that. Loved having been in the conversations. I actually still know the pitch. You know, it was one of those things, and just really got the bug and learned a lot from him. He's been a mentor of mine and like a figurative big brother for a lot of years, and just always had that kind of gift of wanting to entertain and educate. As a produce man, I would, people would come by and ask for what, kind of fruit or melon this is. And there was an old guy on the news way back when called The Green Grocer. His name was Joe Carcione, and it would be a segment in the news, and he had this great voice, and it would be like, "Hi, this is Joe Carcione with your Green Grocer tip of the day." Well, I'm 16 years old. Somebody comes up, asks me what this is, and I would break into a Joe Carcione impression for these people, and everybody knew who he was at the time, and it's an old thing. It kind of ages me, but just everything was that way for me. I always knew I was going to be in sales. I was able to, when I worked my way through college, even as a bartender, I started my own bartending service, and called More Good Times Bartending Service, and had as far as marketing goes, there was the tagline: a professional bartender can add that special touch of class to give your guests a lasting memory of a fine affair. And doing all the things, but I always knew that I always wanted to know, why do people care? Why do people hire somebody? And what would be that thing that would separate me from everything? And so I would have all the bullet points about specialty drinks and all this type of stuff. And the very last thing that I had, my last bullet point in bold and bigger type, was complete party cleanup. And people would just hire me for that. And I actually, in college, I'll tell you a quick story, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but one morning, it was a Friday morning, and so, everybody's partying on Thursday nights. I went to UCLA. I get a phone call, and I answer the phone, and I'm like, hello, kind of still out of it. And it's like, "Hi, Jeff, this is Barbara Billingsley." Well, if you don't know who Barbara Billingsley was, it was Mrs. Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver. And I'm like, "It is not," and she's like, but it is. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "Leave It to Beaver, starring Barbara Billingsley, Hugh Beaumont, Tony Dow, and Jerry Mathers as the Beaver." She said, "Oh my God." Well, she saw a flyer of my complete party cleanup and hired me to just do her Christmas Eve dinner for her family, and to, pull the stuff out of the oven and do all this kind of stuff. And I'm making hundreds of dollars a night. And I'm like, this is awesome. And just, but then I started to figure out, like, hey, wait a minute, do I want to be the guy that's serving the meal, or do I want to be the guy that's hiring the guy that serves the meal? And so it was just kind of a thing where I just have always had that entrepreneurial spirit, no matter what I did, no matter where I worked, always had a drive that would position myself differently. And so, fast forward in sales and marketing, and was president of a seafood company, and just, the kind of the adult next level entrepreneur thing and marketing thing came when Tony Robbins did his Ultimate Business Mastery Summit back in 2009. It was what is now Business Mastery, but it was Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins doing their first thing out in Vegas. And I attended, and that was the first time I ever met a young, brash Jersey kid by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk that literally changed everybody's perspective that night. And I started this thing after that because they had a home study course. And I said, hey, told some friends of mine, I said, hey, I'm going to, do this home study course. Come over with me on a Thursday night after work, 7:00. I'm, be there, don't be there, I don't care. I'm going to get better. And started, 4 people showed up one night. We watched Vaynerchuk's keynote, and we talked about it, and I helped people understand what it meant to them, and really told their story better than they could to themselves at that point. And it grew from 4 to 8 and I think there's now just under 800 people from 26 countries in Thursday Night Boardroom, totally free. But I got to meet some of the greatest people on the planet. And so fast forward, I had my own seafood company. We sold our seafood company to a company out of Miami, and I don't think they really knew what they were doing, or at least I don't know. But turns out that wasn't going to be where I wanted to stay, and so I left the company September of last year. Started with Global Protein Group with $0 in sales. So we went from 0 to 5 million by February. September to February, we're doing 5 million annualized, and that really was kind of the testament at that point, was the relationships that I had built over the 20 years or 17 years that I was president, and the 20 years that I was in this business. The relationships were beyond, they transcended transaction, people always knew, my customers always knew that I had an obligation to present options, opportunities, and offers on everything they did, whether it was mine or not. And that was a positioning thing, right? They always knew that they could, non-threatening, hey, Jeff, I need some information. They knew that that it wasn't going to end up in this hardcore sales pitch or whatever. It was, hey, this is great. And what evolved was, and when Cheesecake Factory, when I left, and I had Cheesecake Factory as one of my customers, and BJ's Restaurants is one of my customers, and House of Blues, and Lazy Dog Cafe. I mean, all these different restaurant chains are contracts that I've had over the years, forever. And so when I left, and Cheesecake Factory called me up and said, we're going to go with you, and we're going to go with you now because the previous company that I sold to really wasn't servicing them well. I go, gosh, this is going to be, it was really telling, because I'm like, well, this is really challenging. It's December. It's like all this stuff. And I'm kind of thinking out loud. And she stopped me and she goes, Jeff, do you know why we do business with you? I said, because I'm cute. And she's like, no. She goes, you don't make your problems our problems. You make our problems your problem. And then you come up with the solution. So we're supporting you. We're giving you our business. We're not telling you that we're expecting the world, but we want you to fix it. Whatever is broken, you fix it. And that's what you've always been. And the level of trust we've had with you for over 17 years is literally that.
So stop a second, Jeff. Yeah. This is a really important point that I want our listeners to think about for themselves. Because in the corporate world these days, there's constant turnover in people in various positions. So someone that you've cultivated a really strong relationship with, because I've worked with coaches and consultants over many years, and it's very discouraging when they've taken the time, they've built this relationship, and that person leaves, and now the new person they have to start from scratch, if at all. But sometimes the new person that comes in is attached to a previous vendor. Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is stay in touch with those people who leave that you had the great relationship with, because they may bring you in for your services in that new position that they get involved with.
And for me, I have business friends. If I don't like, if it's like I don't know, like, and trust them, and they don't know, like, and trust me, there's a very low probability that we do business together. If it's not a person that I would like to and be eager to have over to my house for dinner, introduce my family, I brag about them, all those things. If I can't do that, it's really my ability to be the best that I can be for them is lessened. It's still probably more than my competition's going to be able to do in a lot of cases. But, I have a relationship with my customers that can call me, and it might not be about seafood. It might not be about anything, but they just want to call and they just want to share some stuff. And that's really like the connection that I have that I'm most proud of. With the people that I work with. And it really comes into the fact that I have, over the years, created this ability and this skill to be able to tell somebody's story better than they can to themselves. And I paraphrase like Wyatt Woodsmall that said, through Eben Pagan, if you can articulate the needs, desires, challenges, fears, and aspirations of the other person, no matter who that is, customer, spouse, friend, child, sibling, if you can articulate their needs, desires, challenges, fears, and aspirations better than they can, not better than they can to you, but better than they can to themselves, you've passed the tipping point of being their trusted advisor. And then all you need to do is carry forth with that same conversation, with those same attributes, and you'll be their trusted advisor for life. And so when I hear about people that say, hey, I used to have this customer, or I used to have this client, and then, we moved, or there's something happen and it went away. In my mind, I don't understand like anything less than clients for life. Like That's for me, great. I've had people that just pay me $2,500 a month to keep me on speed dial just to be that trusted advisor, because they don't have to fill in a lot of context with me. They can pick up this conversation. They can be in the middle of a sentence and I already know what they're talking about. And
so
it's always...
Yeah, let's talk a minute about how you go about being able to articulate their problem better than they can articulate it either to yourself or to you or to themselves. What's your process for getting inside their heads in such a way that you're able to do that?
You know, it's very much about where have they come from. So, you know, hey, you know, how long have you been here? 2 years. Oh, where were you before that? I was here. Oh, for how long? Oh, a couple of years. What about before that? And so I start to find this commonality of what their path was, and to be able to articulate where, to be able to understand where they were leading up to here, right? Because every moment brings us to this moment, and this moment brings us to the next. And so I find out, I get to know them. And so anytime I'm sharing something with them, they understand in the context of what I'm sharing is that this is them. I'm sharing it about them because I'm able to utilize where they came from to bring them to where we are today. Mm-hmm. and show them that they really do understand this. And so, you know, to be able to tell somebody's, it's funny when you can tell somebody's story better than they can to themselves, and you've established that relationship, there's a funny look on their face when you walk in the room. And it's like they're almost saying to themselves, here he comes. Here comes Jeff. He's going to tell me a story about my favorite subject, me, today. Where am I going to go? And I take this all the way back into, like, my mom, who was a super talented woman and still alive and in her late 70s, when she would tell me, you know, bedtime stories, but it wouldn't be out of a book all the time. It would be a story that she would tell about me as the star of the story, and, you know, playing out in front with the kids in the cul-de-sac, and then all of a sudden a helicopter landed in the middle of the street, and it was, you know, my grandpa, and he came, hey, I'm picking you up, and we're going to go fly around the city and look at things from up here. And all the kids were like, oh my gosh, look at this. And, you know, it was so cool that I got to do it, and I got to bring friends and whatever. And she would just tell these fantasies that would just be like, oh my God, they would just, you know, you'd have these great dreams and all of these things, because that was the last thing. And that's always been kind of the thing, that to be able to tell somebody's, not just their story. And I'm going to use fantasy just because that's got so many connotations. And I'm in a messaging place. When somebody says, oh, well, that word, you know, has a lot of meanings, I'm like, well, get rid of the effing word then. But it's just to be able to tell this story that makes them feel elevated and feel better about themselves, and an experience that they might not have had, but they just experienced it in their mind's eye.
You're painting a picture for them.
Totally.
Of where they aspire to be, but maybe haven't been able to see themselves there because of their own limited beliefs, perspective, experiences.
So let me tell you, there's when Thursday Night Boardroom, we were talking about it, and there's some questions that we had introduced, and what we've narrowed it down to this compelling introduction that you and I will talk about. But there was, you know, who are you? You know, what do you do? Who is your customer, singular? You know, what is that unique product or service that sets you apart from your competition? How does your customer brag about you, or your client brag about you? And they mess that up all the time. And then the last one was, what do you do that makes you the best in the world in the eyes of your customer or client, right? Whatever you're going to use in this. And they go, oh, you know, I do this and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, guys, there's an answer to this. And the answer is, I am you. And I know where you're going. And I've been there before. I know the shortcuts on the way. I even know the obstacles you're going to face. I even know what you're saying to yourself while you're on this journey. And I know something else. You're already there. You just don't know it yet. Let me show you the way. When you can impart that, and you don't say it like that to people, but in your actions and in your conversation, when you can help somebody see themselves as their better self, and then realize that we're not future pacing, that this is today. You are this person. And so in any client meeting that I have, anything where I'm dealing with a coach or I'm consulting for a business or whatever, there's no homework. We finish and you are this new person because this is who you really are. And so it's just, that's what I wanted to kind of lead to that, because you introduce themselves to their better selves. But the most powerful thing is that it's their better self right now. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to jump through some flaming hoops. They don't have to do this. All they had to do was just decide, I'm going to become this person now. I am this person, so why not just become?
That's great. Yeah. I love that, because too often we do think we have to complete some steps.
Yep.
To get there, to arrive at this place that's different than where we are, instead of just peeling back the layers of ridiculous things we've said to ourselves.
Yeah.
Or beliefs we've adopted, and just let those go.
And the beauty of what we do at the network, which is our mastermind group that we have with my partner, Nick Peterson, is the messaging part, the value discovery, ValYOU. We call it the value discovery session. And value discovery and compelling introduction all come together, because I'll listen to somebody and I'll listen to them and they'll start to use words. And I'm like, define that word. What does that word mean? You know, they want more impact in their life. Well, what is impact? I know I've got great impact when ... Give me all the elements. Like, what's the stuff? What are the ingredients of this thing? And then through this discovery process, all of a sudden people start to see in more defined shapes, in more vivid color, who they are truly. And really to be able to hold up this magic mirror that says, so you do this. I had a guy, we did a Steve Sims, and I don't know if you know Steve Sims. Yeah, you know Steve Sims. He wrote the book Blue Fishing. He's the English guy he's the #1 private concierge in the world. And we had a contest. He had a contest for his book, and we won the contest. And our friends of mine and I, and we did a tour of Tesla, and then we did like a session, like a mastermind session at the bar after. And I said, let's do this, like introduce yourself with this compelling introduction. My name is blank from blank company, and we provide blank product or service to blank type of client so they can have this type of benefit without this kind of hassle. And I was going through the whole thing, and I said, let's just get rid of the jargon, do all this type of stuff. And the first guy stands up and he says, my name's Jay. My partner and I are social philanthropers. And I was like, oh, nice to meet you, Jay. And I'm like, what's that? And he's going through this whole thing. And I go, can you just tell me what you do? And he goes, oh, we do a couple of things. They both have to do with trees. And I go, okay. He goes, one of them is we actually plant trees in inner cities of third world countries that the species of tree actually eats more carbon than regular trees. And so it helps, with the environment. And I go, oh, so you help the world breathe easier one tree at a time? And he's like, holy shit, like, can I use that? And I'm like, yeah, you can, but I want everybody to see what just happened. If you sat down after I'm a social philanthropist, that never would have come. Right. And it was just like, it was that easy. Helping somebody, like tell me specifically, what are those things that you do? And so in the messaging, because people want to be articulate, they want to be brief, they've got this elevator speech, and so they want to come up with all this speak that makes them sound smart. And it's like Dean Jackson. You could talk about, oh, we generate leads. I create customer getting websites. It's like, people know what that means, and it's like, and it doesn't matter who you are. And so then it prompts a conversation. And so that's where the messaging part comes into, we have this form, and I'd be more than happy to share it with you so you can share it with your listeners. The value discovery.
Sure. We can put that on the show notes page.
Yeah. And so
on
I'll
our
send that over
website.
to you.
That'll
I'll
be
send
great.
it over to you.
Can you
But
give
it's,
I love that example that you just gave. And so thinking about how you work with the folks in this mastermind group, as you mentioned, some of them are very high level consultants and coaches. Can you give an example of one or two of the folks there that you've helped simplify their message? Because
oh God. Oh,
core. Well, just as an example, Jeff, looking at different profiles on LinkedIn,
mhm.
and reading people's headlines and the descriptions, you commonly see phrases like a proven professional in blah, 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 a proven process. So you have these phrases, and I love what you just said about what does that really mean? So
Business strategist, business strategist, like,
simplify your message. Give us some more examples of how you've taken something more esoteric sounding or conceptual or vague and made it more compelling.
well, there's a gentleman that maybe he could be on your show as well. His name's Bradley Grinnan, and he was one of the first guys to join the network, first people to join the network. Just a wonderful guy, a dear friend now. And he was teaching people that had the desire to become a coach, take them from 0 to 1, and then 1 to 10, and then they're off, right? And that's his job. And so he introduces himself, right? My name is Bradley Grinnan. From what company? From Own Your Life. And we provide, a platform or process to teach people how to become a paid coach and take them from 0 clients to 1, from 1 to 10. And I'm like, okay, so I'm listening and I go, own your life. What's own your life mean? Well, once you're able to do this, you can own your life. And he's got this big long explanation. I said, okay. I go, what's the brand that you use? What is it? And he goes, oh, well, I'm known as the coach launcher. I'm like, okay, get rid of own your life. And my name's Bradley Grinnan, the coach launcher. And he's just like, oh. And I was like, it was so simple that he then became like, he took off the jacket and the shirt, and underneath was the superhero suit. This guy became, right? And not because of that magic moment, but who he became, that we watched his business go from, high 5 figures a month to 6 figures a month. I mean, I'm sorry, to high 4 figures to 5 figures a month. And then he had a 6-figure month, like 4 months later. And it was just like this trajectory. And then all of a sudden he's just like, oh my gosh, now who am I? Right? And we all get there. The greatest stress we can experience is success beyond our vision. And the world is lined, the cemeteries are lined with these people. Janis Joplin, people in the entertainment world, that they all of a sudden explode and then succumb to drugs or some other, kind of thing. And it becomes scary. And so with our mastermind, where the difference in what we do is you don't join our mastermind, you become the center of our universe when you join. And so he's like, who am I? I don't know. And all of a sudden he's like kind of disconnected, and his messaging's getting a little weird. And I said, listen to me. An entrepreneur alone is an entrepreneur at risk. I go, we're going to continue to help you understand what you've become. And so while this message is today, that who you are today, as you continue to evolve, we're going to allow you to stay grounded with really who you are, but be able to evolve, have your message evolve with your evolution. And so that's really where that messaging becomes super important. And then the positioning. The positioning part is, once you've honed down that message, now you place yourself in the lives of your client. But so many people are approaching people from the bleeding neck, like, oh, I need help with this. I need help. The first question in my positioning deal, what was happening in your client's life 5 minutes before they even thought they needed help? When you're able to, remember how I said when I connect with people?
Yes.
When you connect with somebody in what was their life of, like, you hear the old, we all lead lives of quiet desperation. It's the things that we just decided to tolerate, and all of those things. We didn't even ask for help at that point. When somebody can tap into that and really truly connect with somebody where they were before they decided that they needed something, you've got a connection with them that will never be permeated. It'll never be infiltrated. It is, or breached, I guess is probably the best word.
What would you suggest as an actual strategy for someone to understand that? Do they ask a direct question, or how do they discover that?
Well, they do ask, but it's about asking intelligent questions. It's about, but easy, right? So I go to meet the new person at Cheesecake Factory who's the buyer now. Hey, cool. Where were you before here? Oh, I was, at Trader Joe's. Oh, how long were you at Trader Joe's? I was there for 3 years. What were you doing before Trader Joe's? I was in college. Well, God, the college to Trader Joe's, what was tell me about that. Like, did you get recruited by Trader Joe's out of college? Were you did you know somebody? And so you learn something about somebody's history, and you can really, really tell how they're going to move through their future.
And you know what else you're really getting at there, Jeff, even though you haven't used the word yet, is you're listening. You're really actively connecting. And you're not just listening, you're connecting the dots. So to me, your brain just works at lightning speed, where you ask a question and you're categorizing it with other things you've already gotten from them. And I think that's such an important skill. And what you're really doing there is connecting with them on an emotional level. You're not just gathering facts. My guess is you're learning more about what was their experience like when they were at this company or that company. So you get a sense of what's important to them.
Yes. And it's, and for me, it's not, Meredith, this is just who I am. And so it didn't like one day go, oh, I've got this evil scheme where I'm going to learn all this stuff about people. I've always been that person.
Curious.
Always. Oh my gosh. I mean, the history of my family. I'm 4th generation Orange County here in Southern California in food service. And so just to embrace my own family's history, that gives me that confidence of this is my house. This is where I am here. To understand where people have come from and just truly cherish their history and who they are, the foundation of who they are. To me, I don't want to live another way.
Really think about it. You're setting yourself apart by even asking those questions, because who else bothers to ask them those kinds of questions to get a sense of their own journey and experiences?
If I was to give myself a name, like label, for me is evangelist. Every person that I connect with, from a business side or personal side, I'm asking those questions pure and simple because I am so proud of who they are that I want to know more. Because I can't wait to share them with somebody else, right? I mean, think about it. I'm in the food service business, right? And so I'll go and I'll speak to a restaurant chain owner, or somebody that's got just a big restaurant or something like that. So I'm out there, making that call, and I'll say, hey, what's the goal for the customer? And they're like, what do you mean? What's the goal? To have a great meal. And I go, really? Well, to have a memorable dining experience. You've heard that a million times. We just want you to have a memorable dining experience. And I'll be like, so that's it? A memorable dining experience? And they can just say yes. But if you know me, they're going, what, Jeff? What? I'm like, what about a remarkable dining experience? And they go, what the hell's the difference? It's a memorable, remarkable, whatever. And I go, no. A remarkable dining experience is an experience that's so great that they're literally talking to each other, the people that are having this meal there, or they're talking to themselves, whatever the case may be. They're literally talking to each other and saying, who do we want to bring here next? Who do we want to share this experience with? they're not just willing to do it, they're eager and they're starting to talk about it. He goes, well, how do I form that? I go, you tell them that. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, you walk up, everybody, manager walks up, hey, how's the meal? Oh, it's fine. It's basically leave us the hell alone. Okay, great. I just want you to know that I'm the manager. I'm here. If there's anything you need from me, I'd be more than happy to help you. But I just want you to know. Every other manager is going to tell you that they just want you to have a memorable dining experience. They want you to enjoy your meal. I really want you to have such a great experience here that you're talking amongst yourselves on who you're going to bring here next, because it's been that great. And he's like, then what do you do? I go, walk away. You've just anchored that conversation right there. They can't help but think about that. If they're having a great experience, that's exactly what they're talking about next. And so it's that when we talk about messaging, and people, I love it when I'll get into these conversations and somebody goes, that's just semantics, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it is. And it's the ball game, And so it's just, it's so much.
Words matter.
They really do
matter, which is why you work so hard with people to get their messaging as simple as possible. To me, that's such a huge takeaway for our listeners. Among many other things you've said, your sharing of all these different experiences for those who are creative and are always looking at how can I up my game, you're really stimulating them to think about, wow, am I creating a remarkable experience for my clients? Would they talk about me in a good way after I've left, and done my work with them today? What are they saying? What do I want them to say? And I think that what you're getting at is being proactive.
Big time. And here's the scary part. When you really, really are confident in what you're doing, you can have a client come in and say, okay, I want you to help me with my messaging. Here's who I am. Here's what I do, blah, blah, blah. If that's all I was doing in that, because remember, the compelling introduction is one part of it. The value discovery, and value is a word, ValYOU, that represents the most powerful, profitable, and enduring relationships in the world. It's a language, right? And so to have a client come into you and say, this is my message. I need, messaging to help me do this. And through this discovery process, you find that that's absolutely not what they should be doing or even want to do. That somebody told them that they should be doing it, that's the next step, that they should be scaling this and making it automatic and making it where you never have to talk to a client again and do any of that type of stuff. And you watch and see this friction going on in this discovery process. And it's like, you know what? Not judging here, but can I just make an observation? And all of a sudden I watch somebody, I'll be in a value discovery, and this is how they came in, and they leave somebody else. But it was them all along. We just helped them, right? Whether they knew it or not, it was like we just helped them become who they really wanted to be. Mm-hmm. How powerful is that?
Well, it's very powerful. And when you think of people who are in these various service professions, that's really their goal, is to help people make transformations in whatever area it is that they're working in.
Yep.
And so when you think about what is your magic, and of course this is thinking about a magician giving away his, secrets, but you've shared so many different things. When you're in that discovery mode, what are the things that are going on, whether it's your questions or the way you interact or the way you respond, that help that person become different during that conversation?
In a lot of ways, the delivery is in maybe a parable or a sharing an experience that's guiding them towards this. It's an experience you share that they go, well, this is like me. But the story ends with them being something else. And so you've just helped them guide and see, because we can tell stories. I can tell you stories about my first date with my wife, and how we went, and you're going to experience your own experiences that you had in the past, right? And so you see yourself in these stories. And so to be able to look and tell, like understand where they came from, understand that path, the trajectory of where they're going, and to be able to create this scenario that helps them really either validate what they're doing or make that adjustment to who they want to become, but then say it in a way. Remember, like it was Mark Twain said, right? There's two reasons why people do stuff. The reason they tell you and the real reason. Usually the real reason is this person, right? You know, something great, Meredith, something great happens today for you, right? Or something particularly crappy happens to you and you want to talk to somebody. You're going to call the person that gets you the most,
Mm-hmm.
not the person that you have to fill in all this context and all this backstory, right?
Right.
Because as human beings, as our entire race, we all share the same frustration. We don't feel understood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we gravitate to those people that understand us. And I don't know where that happened for me, but I understood that the most interesting person in the room is the most interested person in the room. That people will gravitate to the person that understands them. They will make those phone calls. They will share those intimate details. They feel safe. Now that's another part about this, right? And every person that's ever been married or been in a relationship forever knows this. When the relationship went south and you started to have to protect yourself, the single thing happened was you stopped feeling safe, emotionally safe around this person. And so you felt like the need to protect yourself or the need to defend and go back at them. And all of a sudden things crumble. And my wife and I were having that type of relationship back in about 2012, 2013. And I just told her, I said, flat out, you know what? We don't move forward unless we can feel safe with each other again. And that we don't feel like everything, like the Miranda rights, right? Anything I say can and will be done, we use against me, right? But the way to understand somebody and make them feel safe in their vulnerability, that person is going to always think about you because you're always thinking about them.
That's so powerful, Jeff. Wow. You have shared to me some really critical truths here in our conversation that about human nature, about relationship, not just relationship building, but relationship maintenance and extension and really, like you said, lifelong relationships. When you go in with that goal and not a transaction to make this sale or get this contract signed, you have a whole different way of being.
Yes.
You show up differently, you interact differently, and people feel that. They sense that from you. I sense it. I mean, it came across and comes across in the passionate way you talk about what you do. It's clearly just in every cell of your body. And I think that is such an important insight for everyone listening here, is because anyone who goes into the service professional where they are providing a service that's going to be of value to other people, they have a deep sense of caring about others.
Oh, it's an ache, right? Yeah. It's an ache.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this person I just want so bad. You know, that whole vessel and whatever that the vessel in the lighthouse or whatever that metaphor is. Man, I'm a vessel 1,000%.
Right. And so this whole idea, what you have done is you've embraced that. You have no reservations with letting that show when you're with somebody. You want them to know you have a depth of caring about you that's different from other people. And so to me, one of the big takeaways today is for each listener, when they're thinking of or when they're with a client and interacting with them, how can they be that present, that caring, so that they're not concerned about, because you know what I never heard you once say is you were concerned about how you were coming across. It's always, what can I do for you? How can I help you? Let me learn about you.
You know what you'll never hear me say, by the way?
What?
How can I help you? When somebody says that to me, I'm a client, and that's why the history thing is, because people want to become like, coaches are like, I want to help this person go to the next level. I want to become part of their future. I'm going to tell you that you're never going to truly become part of this person's future if you have not positioned yourself in part of their past. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Jeff, thank you so much for what you've done at Thursday Night Boardroom, and I just have one question. How can I help you? Right? Magnanimous. Thank you. Right? Thank you. I'm such an ass. You know what my answer is? How did you helping me become my burden? Why don't you just tell me? Watch what's happened to me in my life. Look at how I behave. Look at I'm an open freaking book. Look at what I do. Why don't you tell me how you can help me? Why don't you offer something? Why don't you give me an observation and say, if I may, I think that I might be able to give you a perspective that might help you through this. But if I'm paying you, especially, and you ask, how can you help me? That is the laziest damn question ever. Right? We had a Wild Things warehouse sale. We back in the day, and this, I'm totally going off, but we would sell on Saturdays. We'd have one Saturday a month where we would sell just awesome restaurant quality seafood and steaks and all this great stuff. And it was so fun to do. And I'd cook, and we'd just have this great, great deal. And people would walk in at the beginning of this thing, and our assistants would go, can I help you with anything? Right? You've heard that how many millions of times you've heard that? No thanks, just looking. No thanks, just looking. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop saying, how can I help you? Can I help you with something? And I want you to ask this. What's your favorite kind of fish? Because now get into a conversation with them. Are you a fish lover? Do you love steak? What's your favorite cut of steak? Get them into that conversation. Words matter. The way we position them matter. Then we used to sell these awesome, insulated bags at the checkout counter. Mm-hmm. Great ones, huge. I mean, you could picnics, whatever you could do, beach, anything, or put crap loads of seafood and steak in when you come shop at our place. And if you shopped with the bag, if you had the bag, we gave you a free piece of fish at your checkout. You want some mahi or salmon? Oh, whatever. Well, you get up to the checkout counter and they go, hey, would you like to buy an insulated bag? No, I'm good. I go, we need to stop doing that. You want to become part of the free fish of the month club? How do I do that? Yeah, free fish of the month? Absolutely. Oh, well, you just buy one of these bags for $9.95. And then every time you come back and shop here, we're going to give you a free piece of fish. As a matter of fact, when you buy it today, we're going to give you a free piece of mahi or salmon. You pay for that bag in 3 visits. Yeah, absolutely. We would sell out. I would sell out so fast, Meredith, those bags, that I would get a new shipment of bags in, like 100 bags. And I'd send an email out on a Thursday. Now, we know how fast email, it doesn't work very fast. You get a text message, yeah, okay, you're going to get an answer. Email, got to be a little patient. I would send an email out. And I was so connected with this group, this customer base that we had, our family, that I would send a thing out and I would explain the new bag we got in. And it was like people that have already bought bags, right? The new bag, and oh my gosh, this one, we've bench tested it. It's got 200 pounds. Not that you'll ever lift 200 pounds, but 200 pounds, you can pull on this thing. You can drag it behind your car. It's not going to do. Within an hour, we would almost sell out of the bags. I'd forget to tell the people in the office that I'd sent the email. I go, you need to call in because we're going to run out this Saturday. If you're not going to be there right when we open, you're going to run out. And people would call in, and never you'd hear this, Jeff, did you send another email? But it was all about the position and the story and helping people become part of this story and be able to do things. Like you see this thing behind us, right? You got banners, and my wife's got her college prep counseling business. Before we even started the business, before the business was even a thing, I already knew the lead magnet, the white paper we were going to do. And I was like, what can we do to make people absolutely feel that they have to have this information? First thing I even thought of, because how are we going to tap into the parents on this? Because they're the customer, right? The lead magnet is college prep and the high school experience. 10 things parents wish they would have known before it was too late. It's like, you don't even have to be a parent at that time. You're like, what are they? Right?
Right.
And so it's so funny because the other day my wife's like, yeah, 10 things parents should know. And I go, no, that's not the title. She's like, what? I go, Doreen, that's like perfect NLP. You really need to understand that every word that's in there is super important, you know? And so like you talked about, words matter. We so badly want to be expedient in our delivery, whether it's our own desire to get the hell out of this conversation or hoping that somebody else wants to get the hell out of it. If we're not impactful, we then go to expedient, and so much stuff gets missed. So there now,
really, what you've gotten at there to me with talking about, you know, the title and your emails and the different questions that you ask, it to me all comes together as engagement. What's going to evoke curiosity on their part? So they want to be a part of it. They want to know more. And you're just a master at that. So I'm glad you shared all those different individual situations, because they stimulate our own thinking about how could we do something similar in our business?
Yes.
What does it take to get that kind of response like you did with your bag selling out? What's our equivalent of that? So people listening to this, there's so much richness here from what Jeff has shared, and it's worth listening to more than once, because we are in different places at different times. When you think about really what you've talked about today, Jeff, applies in kind of two parallel tracks for our listeners. In one is for them individually, for their own development, their own journey as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a consultant. And then as they are meeting with their clients, thinking about these very same things and applying them to that relationship they want to establish. So they become the only choice.
Yep.
Person. I mean, just listening to you and thinking about how much you really love the people who you have done business with. You care deeply about them, and they know that. So how our individual challenges are, how can we do that with our own clients?
Yes.
So you've given so much richness today. Is there anything else you want to, that you might have thought of as an additional tip as we wrap up here? And then I'll ask you to share how people can connect with you and learn more about you.
I would just, in every engagement that you have, search for something that excites you about the person that you're talking to. Great. Search for that thing that just that you really truly makes you light up. And you know, and when somebody can see that you light up about them, that's a very attractive thing. I mean, look at me. I'm not a very good looking man, but I married a beautiful wife, and there's got to be something that works in this type of thing, because she's my best friend. I'm so proud of her. She looks at her, you know, her private practice, not like a job, but like her ministry, you know? And so, you know, I think that for what I lack in physical attributes, I make up for in just the absolute way I love the people I'm dealing with. And so that's just, me being a little self-deprecating, but sharing.
Well, no, what you
finding that
said
thing
is pure gold, because I think sometimes we're too quick to brush off somebody as possibly not interesting or not clicking with us, when it's really up to us to find that thing, like you just said. That's wonderful.
Yep.
Because we all have it. Every human being wants to be recognized. You said understood, but also recognized as valuable.
No doubt. Yeah. The recognition is such a beautiful thing too.
It is. So tell people where they can connect with you and find you, either on social media or on your website.
Well, social media, I guess you could just find me at Jeff Moore on Facebook. Thursday Night Boardroom is my free connection. We're on Facebook there. You can ask to join there or go to thursdaynightboardroom.com. But if you want to elevate this relationship, there's a couple of steps. Masterymode.com, where you can join the vault or the network. And those are my partners, Nick Peterson and Dan Giulianotti. And they're just a brilliant group of guys, and they invited me in, and we created this thing called the network. And it's these high-end service providers that as a matter of fact, we have a retreat that starts tomorrow, and it'll go Friday, Saturday, and part of Sunday. But people have us, as their support system. And so masterymode.com. We are, as far as marketing and outward marketing and things, we're so hell-bent on that organic connection that there's not this funnel. We don't believe in funnels anyway. We believe that because funnels need gravity, we need to be able to, through engagement, help elevate people through the process.
Oh, I love that.
And so masterymode.com, you can get a hold of us. But, and heck, if you want, you want to email me and tell me, hey, this was, great, or boy, I wish you would have slowed down, or something like that, you can get a hold of me at jeff@masterymode.com. I mean, I'll throw that out there.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, Jeff, it's been so much fun to watch you in action, listen to you in action with your energy, your passion, and your commitment to really elevating other people. And I want to thank you for your commitment to do that.
No, thank you so much, Meredith. And I'm just, I'm so glad that you and I have connected again, and you're just doing some great work, and I can't wait to introduce more people to you to be on your show, because I just think that this is going to be an awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strong for Performance podcast. Now head over to growstrongleaders.com to learn how our tools can increase your impact with clients and expand your business. And while you're there, grab our free ebook, The 5 Secrets to Getting Better at Anything. Until next time, I'm Meredith Bell. Make it a great day.